just barely finished Betrayer from Lady Wynwood Spies. Things are getting real, yo. We start off this book with Lady Wynwood being attacked in her own home by the family doctor, Dr. Heddich. She gives a subtle a message to Phoebe, who checks in on her because she hears noises, that things are not okay, by using her husband's first name where she normally does not use that because her husband was an abusive person. So Phoebe goes and gets help from the servants and comes in to protect her aunt. So they basically tussle with Dr. Heddich, and Phoebe has him restrained, but then a noise distracts Phoebe and he's able to get out from under her, and he escapes through the window where he got in. One of the servants had ended up cutting the rope that he used, but not before he was able to escape. He did have his shoulder dislocated, and he had either broke his ankle, must have broken his ankle as he fell out, but he did escape, much to Phoebe's annoyance. During that tussle, Lady Wynwood, Laura, noticed that Phoebe was having troubles with her emotions, which was eerily similar to how Thorn reacted when he came across the pollen, the golden soup pollen, which is the plant that they're using, or that Jack's using. Apothecary Jack. So Lady Wynwood makes a subtle reference to it, which Phoebe catches, and then Phoebe realizes that maybe she's not, despite wearing a mask that Lady Wynwood made for her, maybe she's not quite, or maybe she is being affected by the plants that she's trying to tend to so that they can try and save Michael, basically, Mr. Colton Jones. So, they go and get Sol, who comes immediately, and he relocates them to a hotel and has two of the agents guard the doorway, the pathway to Lady Wynwood and Phoebe. So they're staying at a hotel during this. The servants are at the house to kind of keep up appearances. I'm trying to remember because it's taken me several days to finish this book. So at some point, Lady Wynwood realizes that she has more places to search her house for places that her late husband may have hidden some stuff that was vital to their mission. She sends a message to Sol saying she needs to go back to the house. And he is pretty adamant about not letting her. Before they came back to Lady Wynwood to find out why she needs to be there, Phoebe receives a missive from her father saying that he requires her presence at 2:00, like she's some sort of dog to be summoned. So they go back to pick up Lady Wynwood to find out why she needs to go back to the house. She tells Sol that she needs to recreate what his room looked like beforehand so that she can make sure all the furniture is there. And she knows that there are several pieces of furniture that she had given to the new Lord Wynwood, like a distant cousin of his, who took him to a different house that he had brought previous to him in inheriting the title. So she finds they get there. Okay, they get there accompanied by Mr. Colton Jones and Aya and Lady Wynwood, and now they're worried about Heddich telling Apothecary Jack, about the watch that he is trying to get from Laura, because that's what he was after when he attacked her. So Mr. Colton Jones accompanies them to the house. he doesn't allow Lady Wynwood to get out because he notices that there are men about. He doesn't smell the golden suit on them, so they must not be under the influence of the root. Phoebe steps out with him. He has the coachman and him step forward to meet these gentlemen that are walking towards him, and Phoebe is to guard the door to the carriage to guard her aunt. They thought they were Jack's men. Turns out they were men sent by her father to kidnap her. So one of the elderly neighbors came out because he saw the commotion, and he's got a cane. He's a crotchety old man. He just starts whacking the guys with a cane after Phoebe had dispatched the one that she was taking care of. But they question the man, find out that they were there to kidnap Phoebe, to force her to her father's house. And Lady Wynwood says, we will be there at this time on this day, which is a couple days away. So they go and deliver that message, and Lady Wynwood, Michael and Aya and Phoebe all go up to recreate the room her uncle's in. They discover the furniture. That is not there anymore. Meanwhile, they relook through all the furniture that was there. Don't find any openings. Excuse me again. So that night she is invited to the place where the furniture is. So they make a plan to come up with where they will search that furniture, and they do. So the people that go, because it was pretty much family only, Michael Colton Jones, he impersonated one of their family members, since he's a master of disguise. His sister's better, but he's a master. So Michael, Laura, and Phoebe all go to this party. Ooh, sorry again. And they're able to be unnoticed enough to search the bedroom. Phoebe finds a hidden compartment in a desk. But then the lord of the house, the guy who's staying there, he comes up, and they're able to pull off a convincing ruse that Laura was distraught over her husband again, even though he's been dead for 10 years. Just seeing his stuff reminded her of it, is what they said. So they're on their way out, and Miss Toberstone, Amelia, she waylays Phoebe. Now, in previous books, Amelia is suspicious of Phoebe's activities. I don't know if I said that in the last review. But, so she's there because she was invited, because she's way distant cousin. And Michael makes a ruse to be able to go back up to search the bedroom when he saw the lord of the house come back down. So he goes back up to there. He gets open that secret compartment, and he finds a pouch and a letter. He hides them in his jacket, closes back up the secret compartment, goes back down. They meet with Saul later on, find out what's in the letter. That's Bianca's. They find a set of keys, and I believe the locket. Meanwhile, Septimus and Thorne are over on the other side of town. They are following Dr. Hedditch after he had returned home. Dr. Hedditch had been avoiding going on the route. He eventually gets on the route because he's injured from attacking Laura. But his ankle healed wrong. So he's kind of limping. But anyway, so they follow him. They follow him to a warehouse where he has a little laboratory. And there's a bunch of men on the route guarding that place with him. They notice a door in the back that had a triangle on it, a green triangle. So Septimus goes up to the roof of that place to kind of see if he can see how many men are in there and maybe hear some other conversation. Just waits about 4 men and Dr. Hedditch. And so They get back to their little hideaway place and they reconvene, decide to make a plan to ambush this laboratory. And Septimus talks about the door that had the triangle on it, and Saul's like, wait. And then he holds up the one of the keys and he's like, is this the same symbol? And he says, yeah, that's it. So they assume that the keys match up to that door at least. And so they go back there, they ambush the men. Phoebe doing her archery thing with sedative and the thing. Karaya there in case anybody needs medical attention after the ambush. Souls with the two girls. So basically the ones that go in there is Clara and Calvin and Lady Amer, or Isabella, Michael's sister. They're there to kind of like keep a watch and not really help out in the ambush, but to get them sneaking around and everything. Michael, Septimus, and Thorne are the ones who basically take on the men. Phoebe, they're taking them on, they're inching them towards the window so that Phoebe can shoot arrows at them in the windows. So they get the four men. Unknown to this crowd, Maximus, the pale-eyed man who's working with Apothecary Jack, is on a different roof watching and listening. So now he knows that Bianca, the woman whose laboratory this was, who had the keys, she's dead. Died around the same time as Lord Wynwood. And so now he knows that Laura is involved with this group somehow. The leader, maybe even. So, because of the keys. They didn't know where the keys were. Hi! I'll let you out in a minute. I know, but if you're gonna come bother me, I'm gonna bother you. Where am I? I'll let you out in a minute. Okay, so they take the four men prisoners with the sedative that Karai made, which wasn't as effective as before. They take them prisoners into a place where they know they can't get out of. They're still kind of sedate. And basically, Michael and Septimus are there watching them. Meanwhile, Sol and Laura take Phoebe to her dad's house to find out what's going on here. Turns out Phoebe's dad, Mr. Sauber, has intentions to marry her off to a gentleman who lives in the Americans, in Virginia. At the time, they're called the colonies. So, yeah, see, now you're caught. So Phoebe is like adamant. She's like, I will not be married off. So when she refuses him several times, one of the maids comes down and says that Mrs. Zauber, the woman her dad married, wants to see her. And Laura's like, well, I'm not letting you go up there by yourself. I mean, your father already tried to kidnap you once. And Sol's like, I'm not letting you go up there by yourself either. So they follow Phoebe upstairs. They don't let Sol in, but they do allow Laura in. The maid checks to see if it's okay, and then lets Laura in first. And then Phoebe, who's being trained by Mr. Armstrong through the Ramparts organization, luckily checks behind the door and everything and ends up surprising two footmen who were there to basically kidnap her, knock her out and kidnap her. So she fights them, takes them out. Sol's trying to get in the door because they locked the door on him. And eventually he's able to open the door, to knock down the door and get to Phoebe and Laura. And Phoebe had incapacitated the two men that were there to kidnap her. And they basically walk away with more feelings of distrust towards Phoebe's dad. They come back. In the meantime, Michael and Septimus were set upon by other agents of the Ramparts who were acting under authority of a suspicious leader, Mr. Appleby. So they're trying to stonewall them, not allow them into the prison to take these prisoners who are on the route and need sedative before they can be removed. So Septimus was sneaking around. They don't know Septimus was there as well. Michael had given Septimus the keys to the prisoners, and Septimus went and took any other tools that could be used as well on his horse, ran back to go meet with Sol and tell him what was going on. Sol and Septimus decide to go to the laboratory because they were going to let Karaya check out the laboratory a little bit later, but Appleby had sent his agents there as well. So they stonewalled those agents, beat them up, and sent them on their way. And then they went back to their separate ways before they went out to the prison. Septimus was waylaid in his apartment by Maximus, the pale-eyed guy who's working with Apothecary Jack, who basically gives them a message that he wants to give to Saul. And the message, we find out later on, is basically saying that they will trade, they have taken Dr. Stokes, so Karaya's uncle, and they will exchange him for Michael, who was on the route and have survived. That's what they said. They don't feel like this is the truth, but it is what it is. So they gather the whole gang together, including Mr. Havner, the carriage driver, Laura's carriage driver, Clara and Calvin, and they decide how they're going to do this. Sol makes sure, because Phoebe's in an extremely fragile state of mind, I guess you could say. They're not sure how much is being affected just with extenuating circumstances and how much is being affected by the plants. But they know she's fragile. Anyway, they want Laura, Aya, Phoebe, Karaya to meet them at the hotel when they come back with Dr. Stokes, so that they can treat any injuries that he may have. Well, Phoebe gets into a big argument with Sol because she feels like he is treating her like she's a weakness, incapable of doing anything. So she kind of, Laura goes to talk to her back at the hotel, and she doesn't say much, but she does say something along the lines of, I need some air, and I need to go, since I'm not really needed anywhere. And I'm only here as a formality. She's 23 years old, it's okay. So she takes Clara and goes on a walk to Karaya's house, was where she told her aunt she was going, was to Karaya's house, but she's lost in her thoughts, she's not watching, and when she finally comes to, she realizes that there are men waiting for her around Karaya's house, and they make eye contact, and then they start following her, and she starts trying to figure out how to lose them. So she goes on down the street, she sees Miss Toblerstone's carriage. She asks where she's at, then she goes to find her, trying to escape the men. Why do you have to knock things over? Yeah. This is what happens. So she meets up with Miss Tolberstone, who basically takes her under her wing, and they escape the men. And they go back to Miss Tolberstone's house for dinner. And then she, Miss Tolberstone suggests taking her non-marked hackney to go back to her aunt's house. So Phoebe does, and she had sent a note previously to Mrs. Rook, the housekeeper at Laura's house. So they go there, and then she has to figure out a way how to get Karaya back to the hotel. So she has Clara go and get the hackney with a note of describing specific instructions. And then that's what they do. They take the hackney, they quickly run out to the hackney even though the men watching the house saw them. So now they're kind of following her to Karaya's house. Karaya, but surrounded by two of her men servants, is rushed into the carriage, or hackney. I'm not sure what the difference is. Rushed into the carriage. It's enclosed. I don't know if that makes a difference. The men servants confront the men that are waiting around Karaya's house, but they don't have a carriage to follow them. But the other carriage is still following them. So they go rushing through the streets. They're far enough ahead where they were able to drop Karaya, Clara, and Phoebe off in a darkened place for them to hide, and it looked like the carriage didn't even stop. So they watched the one that was following them go by. Then they took another hackney to the hotel. And when they got out, there was a carriage in front of the hotel that Phoebe recognized the people that were coming out of it, and she or the people that were around it, and she kind of hid Clara and Karaya. And at this point, the others are working to exchange Michael for Dr. Stokes. And so they're in Vauxhall Square, and they notice that Septimus is missing, and that there was a ruse, that it wasn't going the way they said it should. So eventually, Soul's okay, so there's a carriage with a random coachman, and Dr. Stokes is all beat up and bloodied inside, and they were trying to get Michael as well. But were they really? So they scared off all the people that were messengers. And Lady Amer, or Isabella, comes rushing up to get Soul's attention by acting like a street urchin. So they follow her like they're chasing her because she stole something off of them. And she stops somewhere for them to catch up. And Soul's like, well, what's going on? Where's Septimus? And then Phoebe comes into play. She's kind of dressed like a man. And she says they took Laura. And Soul's like, what? And she's like, Laura's gone. Aunt Laura's gone. So she's all distraught and upset and basically in shock. And then so we meet back at a brothel, a room in the brothel, as a more conspicuous place to meet. We've got Soul, Thorn, Michael, Phoebe. Do we have Thorn? I think we have Thorn. Yeah, we have Thorn. Isabella, and that's it. Yeah, that's it. And then Phoebe tells the story. Now, Michael came with Phoebe, and they went back to the hotel to check on everybody there, Clara, Karaya, and Aya, and to question people. Basically what happened was Septimus was sent to go get Laura by Apothecary Jack, by Maximus, and Aya tried to fight him off, tried to protect her mistress. She was unsuccessful, and what Phoebe had seen was basically Lady Wynwood being forced into the carriage, and Septimus there forcing her into the carriage. Because Septimus saw Phoebe, he hesitated to get in the carriage, but then he was told to get in the carriage. He got in the carriage. They heard a gunshot. They thought Lady Wynwood had been shot, but then they heard Lady Wynwood screaming. So the assumption is that Septimus has been shot. So at this point, that group thinks Septimus is dead and Laura's been captured. This is traumatizing. So then we flip over to Maxim's point of view, and he is talking about how Lady Wynwood had fainted, and he had shot Septimus in the stomach, and Dr. Heddich was working to staunch the blood flow so that Septimus didn't die. And there was talk of putting him on the root so that the root can heal him. so that he wouldn't die. Maximus ends up depositing Septimus in a inn room, handsomely paying the inn owner, so telling him to make sure that other patrons don't worry about whatever noises or sounds that this guy might make. And then he takes a nondescript hackney or coach, takes Lady Wynwood, and makes Dr. Hedge drive because they're going to switch off. And he's telling Lady Wynwood that they need everything that they found in Miss Lord Wynwood's possessions, because they know she found the keys because of earlier. And of course, she has gone silent because she can't lie very well. She can detect lies. She cannot lie very well herself. So she's gone silent. And so she's like, why should I tell you anything when I know you're just going to kill me? He's like, I'm not going to kill you, He's a liar. And she knows it. And that's where we're ending at, is Lady Wynwood is captured in the clutches of Maxim. Septimus is wounded in an inn. And the group is trying to figure out. They kind of heard in Septimus's voice that he was an unwilling participant in this plan. So yeah, that's Betrayer. It had quite a few twists and turns, and I suspect that there is a connection with Apothecary Jack's group and Phoebe's new stepmom, at the very least. Maybe not her dad. They don't think he has that kind of intelligence, but I think her stepmom at the very least. And then at the very end, Maxim did mention that they have a contact in America, and I wonder if that might be Mr. Poe, who seems like he's more of a womanizer than anything. And then I just discovered that there were several other books. A new one just came out, Spinster. So that's 7 books in the series. And then there's another one coming after that. That is not yet available for pre-order. I thought it was only 6 books. The series is going on forever. But it's a good one. I really appreciate it.